BurbankNBeyond.com.
I'm Robert Vincent, here at Burbank City Hall. We're waiting for the results to come in on the general municipal election. The primary was held a month or so ago, and where Gary Brick was a shoo-in. And now it's between Emily Gabel-Luddy and Bob Frutos. Both feel they have a pretty comfortable lead, but with a very low turnout, it may be no more than a couple hundred votes. We'll get back to you and give you the results and hopefully talk to the candidates. I'm here with Emily Gabel-Luddy, one of the two candidates going for the runoff. Emily, how does it feel tonight? It sounds like a lot of action happening in your home.
I've got a lot of people here this evening, Robert. I'm very glad to have them here. They've been supporters of me all the way through this campaign. So it's a very exciting time for them and a very exciting time for me as well.
So we talked briefly earlier and you sound very confident.
Well, I do feel very optimistic about this whole election. I think that at the end of the day, the Burbank voters will elect me as the new council member in the city of Burbank.
And are you ready to take that on?
I am more than ready to take this on. I think that for everyone who voted for me, I'm going to work very hard to address the issues of concern to them.
And what seems to be those issues?
Well, there were a lot of issues. I think number one was jobs, revenue, and certainly the imbalance in the city budget. And since the economy is at the base of everything that we do, it's very important that this kind of thing get addressed. We did talk about the structural deficit, which the voters were very savvy and got right away. And we talked about transparency and the bonuses, which was pretty much a hot topic all throughout my conversation with voters here in Burbank.
Well, they're comparing that with the city of Bell, and if they really compare, the bonuses our people got were nothing compared to that.
Well, you can say that, but I would also argue that when I was going door to door talking to people, and people were either had their hours cut back, or they were doubling up, or they were out of a job, this was not the time to give city employees bonuses.
Well, I do agree with you. I take that back a little bit because they just raised the electric bill again, the water bill.
Well, there is discussion of raising the water bill, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but how do you feel as a council person you can address that?
Well, one thing I've said before is that before I'm going to vote for any kind of increase in rates, I want to see exactly where all this money is going to be spent. I don't think that it's reasonable to ask the ratepayers to reach in their pockets and dig out for more if there are ways of economizing what BWP is doing. And I have no idea what that means. Does that mean the cell phones that they use should be recalled? Does that mean that maybe some of the company cars should be recalled? I mean, what is it that they can do to convince me that they're economizing in every way that they possibly can before they're going to the ratepayers and asking for another hike? I don't know what I'll do, but I think it's fair to look at everything and have that on the table.
Well, it sounds like you definitely listen to your constituents. That's a good thing.
Well, I enjoyed that very much. In fact, it was a better education for me to be out there and talking to voters. It was my favorite part of the campaign.
One of the things that people are talking about also is because of the mail-in turnout, it's very poor. It's maybe 11%.
Yes, it was very low and predicted to be low once again. I think that some of the council members have asked for a re-examination of the mail-in ballot. Bottom line, the mail-in ballot's probably less expensive than doing opening precincts for voters. I think the trade-off will be then, would we get a higher voting public if we no longer had the mail-in ballot, or would we not? I think that place I'd really like to go is to have more public debates, more public activity, sponsored by the city, talk to the league, really get things going in a way that just did not happen during this campaign.
Well, we should do, just like they do the presidential campaigns, have a lot of town hall meetings.
I think that would be grand.
But unlike them, we really do have to be transparent.
Well, I hope so. I mean, that was one of my issues, was as much transparency, and for a very simple reason. You pay the taxes, I pay the taxes. This is public sector, and we should know everything that's going on with respect to where our money goes.
Well, I don't think any of the ballots are in yet. Last time I looked, nothing was on TV. But it's exciting to be here with you, and you're going to come to City Hall after it's all done, right?
Yes, I will. I'll be down there, and I hope I see you again.
Oh, you will see me. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Robert. Thank you very much.
And good luck. The results are finally coming in with Emily Gabel-Luddy at 217 and Bob Frutos 175. It's still anybody's horse race with only one precinct finished out of 42. We'll get back to you. With 8 precincts counted, Bob Frutos has now taken the lead with 878 votes to 783. That's almost 100 and counting. The results just keep coming in. It's a nail-biter, folks. It's a seesaw battle going back and forth. Emily Gabel-Luddy is now ahead by 42 votes with 14 precincts counted for. And they just keep on coming. The votes are only separated by 3 votes. Emily Gabel-Luddy has 2,498 votes, and Bob Frutos, 2,495. We predicted a nail-biter, and we're getting it, folks. I'm here with Steve Ferguson. Steve, this is pretty amazing. With 32 precincts in, it's only separated by 50 votes with Bob Frutos ahead. You know one or two things about elections. Tell me what your thoughts are.
Well, having worked on a lot of different elections for a few years now, it's clear to say that this is, first of all, a low turnout election. Not a whole lot of people are interested in this race, which is a sad thing, but it's going to be a nail-biter. I mean, we've got 10 precincts left. If Emily can't win by 5 votes per precinct, then Emily will not be able to catch up. But you never know, because it's been up and down throughout the night. It's hard to tell, but it is clear about one thing: Measure U is passing. So, and that will pass tonight very clearly. So,
can you give me a little synopsis on Measure U?
Measure U is basically, it doesn't raise any taxes, but what it does is it opens and kind of expands what the city can begin discussions about taxing. So wireless devices, things like that have to do with the internet, it just kind of opens the door and starts allowing people to, or allows the city to engage in discussions about taxing new items and new things.
So Steve, I've been talking to a lot of people in the streets, and it seems like the majority are old school, and they really like to be able to go in and cast their vote as opposed to the mail-in ballot. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that that the turnout here is evident. That I think when you provide voters choices, whether it's to vote by mail or to vote in person, plenty of people are now permanent absentee voters and PAVs, and they sign up on their own. But I think it's clear that the more choices you give voters, the better. And so I think we need to return to our older system, our traditional system of day of voting and absentee voting. I think that's the only way we can really start really engaging voters more and more proactively.
I agree 100% because I love the fact of having to go someplace, you fill it out, you show your ID, it's just, you're part of the game.
Right. Well, and I mailed my ballot for the primary, but I didn't know if it arrived or not, and I'm sure it did. And let me just say, Margarita Campos, our city clerk, has run and does run incredible elections here, and ethical elections, and follows the rule of the law, the spirit of the law, everything. But I will say, for the general election, I walked my ballot into Buena Vista Library and I dropped it off. There's something about going into that polling place that just it's reminiscent of what all of our ancestors have done in this country for years. So I think we need to go back to our traditional way of voting in this city. I just think more people will respond to that.
I agree with you 100%, and thank you so much, Steve.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm here with Emily Gabel-Luddy. Congratulations, Councilwoman.
Well, thank you very much, Robert.
Was there any doubt?
No, not really. I mean, there were some moments when I wasn't sure, so I guess that, yes, that's doubt. Let's get real here. But that was early in the counting, and I think as the vote went on and the counting came in, and as we were getting towards the end, I had a good lead, and it held all the way to the very end. So I'm very pleased, and I'm very pleased and honored.
Well, you ran a great campaign, and obviously the city of Burbank, the people have spoken.
Yes, and I'm very pleased that the voters and the many voters and supporters who worked with me were able to enjoy this moment tonight. I think it'll be very good for Burbank and the issues that we face.
So it becomes official on Friday, and then when do you take the oath of office?
I take the oath of office at the beginning of May, and I will have one more planning board meeting before then, and I'm looking forward to continuing that responsibility there until it's time to step into the new role as a council member here in Burbank.
Well, you ran a great campaign. It was definitely weeks that turned into months. So a lot of walking around, a lot of doors knocked.
It was my favorite part of the whole campaign, was talking to voters. I mean, I learned a lot about what are on people's minds, and I also got to see a lot of neighborhoods and understand what makes the city very special.
Yeah, I've been here for going on 55 years, and I've seen it do nothing but positive things. There's a little glitch now and then, but I think you're going to be a very positive force in this council. Well,
I really appreciate your faith in me, and I think that winning tonight showed also that people had faith in me, even though we hit a last-minute bump in the road. I think that the Burbank voters were able to see through that, and they cast their votes for me and supported me all the way to victory.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you very, very much.
Well, it was quite an emotional night. We've talked to both candidates, one on the phone and one in person, and it was a roller coaster ride of voting. 1 minute, Bob Frutos is up. The next minute, Emily Gabel-Luddy. As it turns out, Emily Gabel ended up being the new council person and new councilwoman during this centennial year. Congratulations, Emily. We look forward to working with you. I'm Robert Vincent for BurbankNBeyond.com.